You are not the sum of your job description, and you are not the sum of your latest, annual review. You're so much more than that. And find time, find a little time for yourself. Find the time to connect with your creative self and do something that brings you a little bit of joy whenever you can. Like I said, Bulgarian folk dancing, mosaic making, basket weaving, whatever the hell it is. Like feed that side of yourself, because it'll pay off.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to my guest today. She has one of the strangest resumes you'll ever hear on Fulfillment Project. She's won 2 Emmy Awards, been a theater director in New York City, the lead singer of an Italian band, a cabaret performer, the voice of a virtual character, and, if that wasn't enough, a stilt-walking circus ringmaster, all of which she'll tell us about. It surpassed her childhood dream of becoming either a rodeo clown or an ice skater. You set the bar high there, Laura. These days, she's the co-founder and creative director of Geezer, the print-only magazine telling the truth about Gen X and aging, the messy parts, the funny parts, and the parts nobody warned anybody about. She has absolutely no filter. She's pathologically honest, and she writes way too much in emails. Please welcome Laura LeBleu.
Oh my God. That is I need to have you, before I enter any room, can I just have you walk in and do that for me?
Happily.
That would be amazing. In the old days in the circus, they would have people who would come to the town before the little circus would trundle in, and that they would be just like circus barkers, and they would just announce the whole circus. And I feel like I am the circus that has just rolled into your podcast. So thank you for having me.
I may have missed my true calling. Maybe I should have been a circus barker.
It's never too late, my friend. Take it from me.
It is never too late. If you don't take away anything else from the show today, it's never too late.
It's a cliche, but until you're dead, it's pretty much true.
Laura, we're just going to hit the audience with quick ones here. Give them 20 to 30 second responses, reactions to what I'm about to say. You have no idea what I'm about to say. I've got a couple coming out of left field here because I want to stress test you.
Oh, God.
And this is so fun. Gen X gets called the forgotten generation. Is it a fair label, or are you just too cool to be noticed?
Both can be true. 100%. We are the smallest generation by cohort. So we are just, we're between these two mega generations, the boomers and the millennials. We're also just kind of an aloof generation in general. And we're like, fine, you don't want us? We don't care. Yeah. All right. That's that's me trying to be short.
What years are Gen X? This isn't part of the lightning round, but just because a lot of what we talk about today in your magazine is Gen X based. Yeah. What years of birth is that?
65 to 80 is kind of the most accepted. That's a 15-year period. It's pretty short. Although there's some wiggle room on either side.
I'm the youngest of 5, and 3 of my siblings fit into this category, so I can't wait to text them the show and this pops off.
Love it.
What's the one thing about perimenopause you wish someone had pulled you aside and told you about at 40?
Oh my God, that you would lose your mind, that you, and so I hit it before, unfortunately, probably about 3 or 4 years before the conversation really got going. And I was like, why do I want to crawl out of my skin? Why has every decision I've ever made leading me to this place now feel like the wrong decision? So yes, it is. It is a really transformative, but also kind of traumatic time for a woman.
Print is dead, or is print the new vinyl? Pick one and defend it.
Print is absolutely the new vinyl. And there's the data to show it as well. I think just like as a culture, we are all realizing the the nature of digital content and just like this constant stream of, I call it
Yeah.
the empty calories of digital content. We're going back to analog. We want to touch grass, as the kids say, right? And the way that Gen X is doing it is by picking up a magazine.
And even I'm a millennial and I love vinyl. We've got a vinyl, although
Yes.
connected wirelessly to our Sonos sound system. But like, we love the analog stuff, books, magazines. I'm friends with the guys in the UK that launched Bedrock magazine. It's like, and they're younger than me. And it's like
And
people have a craving for the tangible stuff.
we can feel it. We can all feel this, I think, this kind of visceral need to connect with our humanity again. And we do that through physical media. And in fact, my 15-year-old son, when I was talking about Geezer, I showed him the first magazine and he looks at me and he says, Mom, analog media is fire. And I will take that to my grave.
I can't wait to pull that quote out in the show notes. Laura, if you could rebrand AARP in 3 words, what are they?
Well, I would say big marketing company, because that's really what they are. And don't get me wrong, like they're about marketing and they're also about lobbying for the retired set. At least that's what they were a long time ago. But I wish they would just kind of own that that's who they are, and that's fine. I mean, I've got, what, okay, so yes, I did burn my first AARP mailer when it came to me because it made me very stabby. I think I was 49 and I was like, no, 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 you clearly have the wrong Laura LeBleu. I am not in AARP territory. And Geezer is kind of a, we're an alternative to the content that they're putting out around getting older, because they can't have the conversations that we can have because they're beholden to many, many different advertisers. And so it's a different world that they live in. That said, get your discount. You can get your discount right now. You don't have to be retired, Andy. You can go become a member of AARP and start getting that 15% off every time you go to a movie theater.
Even
It's
at
true.
36, is there no minimum age requirement?
There's no minimum age. Anyone can join.
I am not above anything to get a discount, especially in today's economy.
Whatever we could do to save a buck in this economy, right?
Amen. All right, last one. Name one thing from the 80s or 90s that deserves a real non-ironic comeback.
That's a good one. Okay, I'm going to have to think about that just a little bit, because I'm thinking of media, I'm thinking of television shows that deserve a comeback. I would be like, can we redo Northern Exposure? Because, but it's just such a good show. And I don't know if you know anything about it. It's a very Gen X show. It's very existential. It takes place in Alaska and in this little town with these personalities. And I would love to see a show like that, which incorporated a lot of magical realism into it. I would love to see a show like that be brought to life. Now that's like a show. I'm thinking, like, I wonder, what we also need? We need punk rock. Like, we need some serious punk rock, grunge, we need some angry music to fit our angry times. And Gen X was real good at that. And I don't know if it's out there right now because maybe I'm disconnected.
Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend.
I would say, okay, Northern Exposure, and let's bring back some really kick-ass, angry music for that is apropos to our time.
And I wonder, even in a little way, if it's already coming back, because there's a lot of Spotify playlists that are like ska, punk rock that
Yeah.
show up, and like pop remixes of hardcore stuff, or hardcore remixes of pop stuff. And it's good. It helps release some of the stuff inside.
I know we need it. And I'm thinking of something to do in Geezer magazine coming up. I have a friend of mine. He doesn't know this. I should probably reach out to him before I mention it. His name is Mark French, and he's just this kick-ass kind of musicologist and creative director. And I'm like, I want him to put together something on Gen X protest music, because in the
Whoa.
80s, of course, we had like the Clash, and we had Sex Pistols, and we had a lot of those bands. Those were all baby boomers who were in them, but we were young enough to be really affected by them. So anyway, I feel like musically speaking, there is a lot of opportunity to get really loud and really angry. Like, come on, man. Thank you, Bruce Springsteen, for going out there and talking truth. And, but where I want the younger kids. And I don't know, you'll have to tell me, Andy, if there are bands out there that I don't know about who are mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore, because I would love to listen to some of that music.
I don't know. Truly, when I listen to current music on Spotify, like every now and again, I'll hit today's hits, and it's
Mm-hmm.
all electronic, at least what I'm picking up. So I think we need some real music, some ska, some horns, some
Ah,
distorted guitar, some
good.
strong lyrics that, like, by a good lyricist, that touch deep in the heart and the soul, that aren't just like empty,
Yeah.
nothing lyrics.
And it's so here's the other thing. Gen X grew up with the last unsanitized airwaves as far as radio went. Like, we listened to the radio, and behind every radio show was not an algorithm. It wasn't Clear Channel deciding what was going to go into, like, on the radio at this point. That happened, I think, in the mid 2000s. But it was people, and it was personalities, and it was DJs, and they would go find the music that they loved. And when ultimately you would find that DJ that you loved, and they, what I was getting served in El Paso, Texas on KLAQ with Jeffrey Scott, my favorite DJ, was much different than what someone else was getting served in Detroit or San Francisco or Atlanta. But it was all it was just like so much more individual. And that's what I feel like we've lost. After Clear Channel came in, they bought up the radio stations, they took the DJs away, and they started with these kind of, again, just algorithmically driven music. And that's the same thing as what you're getting on Spotify. And, hey, man, I like Spotify. That's where I go. And, I can find stuff that I wouldn't find, but also there's not, I don't know. We're just like Gen X was the last generation that really had, like, we're so eclectic because of that. I think there's no homogeneity, except for the big bands that everyone listened to.
A light bulb just went off in my mind. I wonder if that's something people feel attracted to with the print magazine, with vinyls.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah,
everything right now is curated for us. You go into your app, you scroll the news, and it predicts what you're going to want, what I'm going to want. And
yeah,
when you open a magazine, you flip the page, and it kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone, which is
yeah.
exciting because it's a little scary and you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, especially small independent magazines like Geezer. If you go and you get a Vogue or something, or you get, Men's Fitness or whatever, maybe outdoor, unfortunately outdoor magazine now, because it's been kind of stripped down. You're going to know what you're getting in for. When you pick up an independent magazine like Geezer and you open it up, you are in for a carnival of delights because it is going to be totally unexpected, and you're going to learn something. You're going to meet people that you wouldn't have met before, and it's all out of the algorithm. And it's you know, it's it's almost like when we were, again, going back to Gen X, when we were kids, we had to go to Blockbuster Video on a
Yep.
Friday night and compete to get that one copy of whatever movie it is that we wanted to watch that night. And
Hmm.
there was no guarantee that it would be stocked when you showed up. So what would happen is then we would have to talk to the person, the video store clerk, who, was often this, they were these savants of film. And we would tell them what we were looking for, and they would give us a recommendation. It was a
Yeah.
human algorithm that was very specific to their brain and their knowledge. And what would happen is that we would see things we would have never seen in a million years. And sometimes they were crap. And sometimes you were like, this is my new favorite movie. So it just felt like it was an age where discovery was built in, and it was our own individual discovery. Now discovery is fed to us, which means it's not really a discovery at all.
I was just at a hotel in Charlotte, South Carolina, and when you walk in, they had a vinyl library with a librarian. Every room had a record player in it. And I talked to her, and she was a savant, knew
Right.
everything. She ended up connecting me with this. She said, asked what I liked. I said, I like to dance. I like funk. I like a beat. I
Mhm.
want a groove. And she gave me this French pop funk band I never in a bazillion years could have heard of, would have heard of. And I think I wore that record out over my 2-day stay there. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." It was so cool. Back to your idea of
I am
th
so excited about that. I just read about this phenomenon, and I could not be more behind it, more, just I'm a cheerleader of this. And I feel like we need to get back to that individual discovery. Yeah.
you said something that, um you just said something that Gen Z, I think, is struggling with big time, and what I heard you say is you talked to a clerk at Blockbuster. I
Yep.
feel like a lot of the young kids these days, college kids, high school kids, just out of college now, they struggle talking to strangers. What is
Mm.
that all about?
Yeah, I think of my son, and I think of how he is, truly a digital native. He is 15 years old. He connects with most of his friends online. Although they've started going to the mall. They are starting that is where they wanna go and hang out, which is, from my little
No
black
way.
Gen X heart, that makes me so happy because the mall was the center of our little universe in whatever town we were living in. Um, so I I I think now my kid's probably a bit of an exception. I don't know, he's my focus group of 1. Does he have a harder time speaking, like going and just connecting with someone, I think, than we would? Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is because we're not used to the sweaty kind of, in the flesh sort of, uh, occasionally awkward interactions that we have with our fellow human beings.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And yeah, I hope that the kids will realize just how important it is to have those little daily interactions, because I don't know, I get a lot of energy from them. Just I'll go running, and, my dog and another dog will sniff. And so I'll stop and I'll talk with the other human. And, just a 90-second interaction can
Yeah.
make me feel better. It's just like, this is our species, man. We gotta, we gotta connect with them.
And I've got two converging thoughts here. I'll
Mm,
go here. Most centenarians, people living over 100,
yeah,
one of the most common threads among them isn't diet, isn't nationality or anything like that. It's their social connection. Almost
correct.
all of them have strong social connection, which to me, I internalize that as having strong relationships helps you live longer, helps you be more healthy. True or false?
100% true. And it has been proven time and time and time again. The data is there. We are often only as healthy as our connections, our social network. Because I mean, think about it. Who wants to, unless you are the alm uncle, and you are perfectly happy living on the side of a mountain, in a little cabin with some goats. Unless you're that person,
Yeah.
wh- why continue to get up and do what you need to do every morning if you don't have people that love you around and a purpose? I mean, a lot of it is also connected with purpose. And if you can make, you know, if people, the people that you love are your purpose, then you're going to want to stick around longer for them.
Laura, I'm going back to your intro, the lead singer for an Italian band, a cabaret performer, stilt walking circus ringmaster. How
Yeah.
did you go from there to working for big companies? And then, well, I have a follow up that I'll wait after you tell us this
Sure.
story.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have, just by nature of my personality, if a door opens in front of me, I'm going to want to go through it. That's just, I'm a curious person and I love to take a leap of faith. And
Yeah.
if I can do something that I think will make a good story later, I'll probably do it. For better or for worse. So okay, let me give you a quick walkthrough. So I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I did get a theater degree from the illustrious New Mexico State University, which actually is a great theater program. We had a very famous playwright named Mark Medoff who was the anchor there. So anyway, theater degree, yes. Always wanted to be in theater, wanted to be on Broadway. I'm like, I was born with jazz hands. That's just kind of who I am. So, yeah, right. Or sparkle fingers, whichever one you want to call them. Um,
Yes.
so I got my degree. I moved to San Francisco, and that's where a lot of these amazing kind of non-standard experiences stemmed from. I started doing theater there. I fell in with a group, and this isn't even in my bio. I fell in with a group of kind of wild rock and roll drag queens. And so I spent a good part of my 20s doing crazy drag queen rock and roll musicals on different stages in San Francisco. This also led to me joining the circus because I auditioned for the circus. It's called Make a Circus, and I toured with them for about a year as the I was like the theater person that they hired. So they taught me how to stilt walk, and I became like in this particular little play slash circus, I was the evil singing stilt walking ringmaster. Um, and that was great because who doesn't want to join the circus, right? So those were connected. And then that's when then I went and auditioned and landed a job as the voice of the virtual character that hosted a network called Tech TV. So, and this was all in the late 90s. So I was hired as a voiceover actor, but then they gave me a writing test, and I've always been a writer. That's just like breathing for me. So I did a writing test. They realized I could write, and they hired me as an associate producer. at this television network, even though I had never set foot in an actual television studio as anything other than talent. So suddenly I was writing promos, doing the voice of the virtual character. I was in the booth, puppeteering because it was a virtual character. We were the first motion capture studio within a television context. So I could come up with an idea in the morning, shoot it in the afternoon, edit it at night, and have it on air the next day. So it was fast, it was fun, it was freaky, and I am so lucky to have had that experience. So that was kind of the beginning, and this is where I'm rolling into like how my career progressed into writing for technology.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then along the way, I became the lead singer of an Italian band. We would do Italian music from the 50s and 60s, and that was just for funsies. That was just like, why not? Who doesn't? A lot of the things I do, why not? If I don't have a good reason not to, then I'll probably do it. So anyway, .com
Wait,
bus.
give us a little lick. Hit us with a little lick, some Italian. Can you sing just like a line or two of Italian for us? Let's hear your
Sure,
chops.
sure. Um, Nessa uno ti giuro, nessa uno nemmeno destino ci può separare, perché questo amore che cielo ci dà sempre vivrà.
Amazing tone, beautiful vibrato.
Oh,
You've got
no,
it all.
I'm so out of shape. That was a song called Nessuno by a woman named Mina, who was a very famous singer in Italy in the 50s. So,
And a fulfillment project exclusive. I've never had anyone sing on the show before.
well, there you go. I'll sing you out later on. I'll figure out something that's a little lower because it's kind of early for me. So here's what happened. In between all of this, the .com bust came along. Everyone lost their jobs. I moved to New York City and eventually used my writing experience in television to become an advertising copywriter.
Oh my
So I worked
gosh.
in advertising. I worked my way up to associate creative director at a place called MediaCom, which is a big media company. I ran a little digital studio, doing online advertising, writing, copywriting. I love a pithy phrase, and so that's where I started to really focus in on my writing as a profession. Then the 2008 housing bust, all of that happened. Was it 2008? Yeah. And in
Yeah.
2010, I moved back to the Bay Area and I got sucked into the technology space because if you live in the Bay Area, eventually you're going to work in technology. So I started writing for tech companies. I still write for a tech company, doing thought leadership. And also just still doing copywriting. I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's like when people just are like, who's going to write this? They'll say, just give it to Laura. Because I do long form, short form, whatever. But my heart is in narrative nonfiction and in magazine writing. And that is why I started Geezer along with Paul von Zielbauer.
And Paul was just on the show. Great episode a couple months ago. Incredible.
We worked together at a tech company and that's how we connected. And so we just stayed connected. And then, here we are working on this magazine. Who would have thought?
Another connection. And I'm going to do an intro on the pod. I just decided because we're talking a lot about Gen X and it's like, why should a millennial, a Gen Z, a boomer listen to this? And it's like, you're getting insights from a Gen Xer that unless you know someone intimately, you may not understand the mindset. And your generation is really driving our society right now. Your generation is leading us. It's probably all the leaders in politics. It's all the leaders in corporations. Is that fair?
Not. No, unfortunately for us. In fact, we might be the first generation not to have a president. There is a gerontocracy that we are all living through. That's why we have had our last two presidents have been, are now, octogenarians. And there's a recalcitrance within, especially within the political ruling class of the baby boomers, to hold on with their little claws to every ounce of power they have. And, I don't necessarily blame them, but I really wish they would step aside and let our generation drive some of the decision making around the politics in this country. Similar with, I don't know if business is the same. I think, actually, no, I take it back. So that's politics. That's specific to politics. And then you have a lot of the younger generation that's just more activated and also has more time to be, to be very vocal. And I'm so appreciative for any millennials, people who are advocating for change in this country. Now, I did do a little research, and I think the average CEO age is about 56, which is definitely in the sweet spot of Gen X. So we do probably have more sway as far as the business world goes, but business and politics, right now we're just in such a wild, like this wild balance of power where politics seems to be reigning supreme. And so we see a lot of the business leaders having to adjust in order to suit the political whims of whatever's going on. So yeah, I wish Gen X had a little more power than we do, because I feel like, we had a lot of integrity as a generation. At least folks group of me and my friends and the people that I hang out with. But yeah, that's my long answer. I wish we had more of the power and more of the decision-making capabilities in this country.
Great insight. Incredible insight. So, talk to me. I know you're very passionate about this, Laura. Creatives inside big companies
Mm.
often describe it as slowly losing a piece of themselves. Is that
Yes.
over dramatic, or is that right on?
Well, I mean, no, I don't think so, but you have to be very deliberate about how you maintain your creative soul and your creative fire. Which I think maybe might be because I've always had to support myself. I've never not worked. Maybe that is one of the reasons why I have done so many other things. Like when I was in New York City, I was working full time, but I founded a theater company with a group of my friends, my lady friends. And that's where we did, we did a couple of huge shows. And one of the other things we would do just to keep our creative spirits alive were these cabarets. And one of which was, this is one of my favorites. This is one of the things I'm most proud of. A cabaret called Bitter Songs for Bitter People. And we would do it every Valentine's Day weekend. So,
Oh my gosh.
so that to me though was, not only was it, we were doing it because because we had to. Like, if you are a creative, you and you're working in a corporate environment, um, you're going to be masking yourself a lot. And you're going to be sanding off your sharper edges. You're going to probably be smiling a lot more than you normally would, and you're going to be surviving the corporate the corporate environment probably more than thriving in it. So in order to survive the corporate environment, you have to have an outlet. You have to be
Mm.
writing your novel at night, or performing in a show, or putting together a magazine. That's been my most recent thing that I realized. This is actually this is very close to my heart, because writing was always, like I said earlier, like writing is like breathing. It comes,
Yeah.
it comes, it comes very naturally, and it's very important to me as a way to organize my thoughts and to express myself. But I've been writing for other people. So I had performing, which was great because performing,
Ooh.
you scratch the creative itch. But writing had been kind of co-opted as a way to make money for me. And when I hit 50, I realized that I had spent my entire life writing for other people, this one thing that felt so close to me. And it kind of it made the relationship between myself and my writing a little bit cold. And I didn't want to lose that. And so that's when Geezer happened. Paul and I were talking a lot about aging with strength with his podcast. And I turned 50 and I just kind of caught fire. I'm like, I have got to finally write for
Yeah.
myself. I've
Yeah.
got to do this for myself. If I die before I get a chance to express myself in my writing in a way that connects with other people and that, allows me to share my own creative perspective on the world, I would have been so sad. So, and Geezer was kind of an existential sort of endeavor in that I had to find a way to get my voice out there. And I wanted to do it for Gen X because we deserve it.
Yeah. So you talk about writing for other people. I wanna just dig in a little deeper here. A lot of people listening may identify as creatives and they're like, yes, what Laura is
Mhm.
saying is resonating. I think another group of listeners is thinking, I'm not a creative, but I also feel like work
Yeah.
is killing me. My soul is dying. I am losing my fire. I have no
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it goes back to, is it because most people spend their whole lives working for people they don't care about,
Mhm.
doing something they don't care about? Is there another reason? Like, why do a lot of people, maybe the majority, feel like McKinsey just put out research, maybe not just, but they put out research that says the majority of people do not find purpose in their work?
Yeah. Well, welcome to the post-industrial capitalistic complex, right? Humans are in our society right now, humans are we're capital to be consumed and then tossed out. You know, that's just anyone who's worked within corporate America understands that at some point. Um what I would say to those people who are feeling this way, um, and feel like they're not creatives, is that they are creatives because there is no human who has ever been born into the
Mm,
without the capacity to create, because that is what makes us human, right? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. You could be like, the worst Bulgarian folk dancer in the world, but if you love Bulgarian folk dancing and you're out there doing it, then you are creating. And it's I just I sense that this is part of our kind of societal existential like freak out that we're having right now, because now we're seeing machines, we're seeing AI, we're seeing, we're starting to outsource our creativity to non-humans. And
yeah.
something deep in us knows that that is not right. That is the opposite of how we were born into this world to live. So I would say to anyone who feels burnt out, you know, take a class. You know what I'm doing on Sunday? I'm going to
What?
a mosaic making class. I'm not a mosaic maker, but I found a place in town. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I'm just going to go take this class. And I'm going to hang out with probably a whole bunch of other middle aged women. And we're going to talk trash and glue shit to I don't know, to some sort of something. And I'm going to walk out of there with something that might look like crap, but will have brought me some deep joy and connection in the process of creating. And anyone can do that. Anyone.
I was speaking to a guy yesterday at a work event, and he said his college age son, he's 19 years old. a senior in college. He's has not done any internships. He's not trying to get a job. He just games in the basement. And his son said, with AI, there's no hope for me. What's
Oh,
the
good.
point
Oh,
in even trying?
poor
What do you
baby.
say to the generation? I don't think everyone is feeling that way, but I think a lot more people like
Yeah.
the idea in my generation of being a senior in college and feeling like there's no hope. There was so much hope. And I feel like this generation feels a bit of hopelessness. What do you speak truth into that generation?
First of all, I feel for them. I mean, like I said, I have a 15-year-old son and we have these conversations. And he is very anti AI. And I think a lot of his cohort are because they're looking at the landscape and they're thinking, well, what's left for me, right? So I just, it hurts. It kind of breaks my heart to hear that and to know that there's a generation that has been, by design, they have been completely, just sucked into a digital existence. And so now they're seeing this digital existence get cannibalized by AI, and they also don't have the IRL world to interact with. So I can only imagine how it feels like the walls might kind of be collapsing in on them. Um, I When I talk to my son, and actually, it's here's the funny thing about it. Like I've written a lot about AI, and I was in on some very early research that looked about how AI was going to affect the job market. And the party line, and I do believe this in a way, is that as AI automates the stuff that um, that humans aren't great at doing, and frankly, I'm like, I don't think anyone was born wanting to enter data into a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a good use of humanity. Happy to automate that, but that we're talking about how your own creativity, your own decision making, your ability to communicate, that those things would be what really makes you valuable in the world of work to come. I hope that's still the case. That, or just doing shit that robots can't do, become a really good hairdresser or a plumber. Or I mean, we know there's a huge pivot into the skilled trades, which I
Yep.
think is great. I'm like, if you are, there is beauty in working with your hands. There is greatness in fixing, knowing how to be competent enough to fix the things that need to be fixed in this world. And that's, obviously a very big shift from when I was growing up, when it was all about, the kind of white collar, more academic sort of middle management thing. I forget, intelligent knowledge workers. Yes, the knowledge workers. Yes, when AI is smarter than you, it's harder to be a knowledge worker, right? So, um, I would hope that this generation doesn't just fall into despair. And also, we still have autonomy over ourselves. And it's a harder thing to navigate for sure. And I feel for them, but um, man, I don't know. My kid wants to be a history professor. And I'm pretty sure that's a decent thing to go in. Like, like I'm hoping that, and that's something that has to deal with writing with, and then with connecting with people in order to share your knowledge. And so I hope that we can, that by leaning into our humanity, that's the best way to navigate the age of AI. I don't know if I'm right. I could be very wrong.
Do you think writing, which you do, it takes a lot of
Mhm.
time. You hit writer's block. It's very slow process. You have to nurture it. Reading books takes a long time. It's very slow. You remember a third of what you read if you're lucky.
Yeah, right. It's true.
Do you think that's a waste of time in the age of AI?
Absolutely not. In
Why?
fact, I just went and I bought like 7 books because I realized, well, first of all, let me start with the writing. And I mentioned this earlier. Um, Writing is often the first step in organizing your thoughts. Um, when I write something, I write to understand either what's happening with me, what's happening emotionally, what's happening, in my brain, and also to understand the world. That's when I do, if I'm interviewing someone, that's part of the writing process. If I'm digging into research, of course I use AI for research. I'd be dumb not to. It's very powerful. Claude, like, hey buddy, Claude can tell me a lot more quickly than I could find on my own. Although I do have to double check everything because
Yeah.
hallucinations are 100% real, and we're just, yeah, we can't trust it. We can use it, but we can't trust it. But so writing, I think, is not irrelevant at all. Um, the one, like a use case at work, I will maybe take a hardcore research document I'm working with that I have to write something about, something that I know if I give it to our company's Claude, because we have the corporate version, that has a lot of guardrails around it. And I will say, take this, only use this as a source material and extrapolate, what are the top insights from this massive research, 79-page document. And it will, as long as I trust what it has, then I know that it's not pulling things out of the ether. I can get some really good insights, and that will save me a shit ton of time. And that is the technical term. So there's a place for it. Now,
Technical term. Thank you
there,
for that.
now reading now, and here's something interesting that I've encountered. One of the reasons I went and I bought 7 new books at my local bookstore was because I have been feeling frustrated about my waning attention span, which is directly connected to
Mm,
I use the phone and how much, how many dings and stuff. Like when we were talking earlier, there's going to be a ding. We live in it's like Pavlov's dog on crack, because there was, every time
yeah.
something dings, we're going boop boop boop, and you just I found that I have to almost relearn my ability to sit for a couple of hours and just immerse myself in the book. And so I am very consciously rewiring my brain, in order to do that. And this is with reading that is, that is for pleasure, because that's what I'm so angry about sometimes, with this digital saturation, digital fatigue, is that I realize that reading has always been a joy and an escape for me. And I feel as if that joy and that escape has been stolen, and I am going
Ooh.
to take it back. And there is nothing more fulfilling than finding yourself in a different world through a beautiful book. And I am not going to let them steal that from me. I'm reclaiming it.
Reclaim it. It's amazing to me. And I'm sure you've had this experience, and I wonder if the audience can share this with us, but like, you're in a book and you're reading words, but somehow you stop seeing the words and you are in another place. Your imagination, more so than even VR, virtual reality, like you are there, and then
It's
something
virtual
happens and
VR.
y- y- you reemerge into reality, and it's like, I was just gone. I was just in a different place.
Right.
And reading books, there is no replacement that I'm aware of for it.
Agreed. And that's another thing that makes me so sad, for this generation that didn't grow up. Well, I'm not saying they didn't grow up reading. I know as a parent, I tried, and my son is a good reader, but he's not just going to pick up a book for pleasure the way that I did. And that makes me sad. Of course, it's very individual. Who knows? Maybe he will later. As a historian, he's going to have to read a lot of old texts. So, yeah.
What's your take on being bored?
Oh, I hate it. It's vital. This is something we talk about, um, that even if we're just sitting in line waiting to check out our groceries, we're going to flip out our phone and scrollity, scroll, right? And there's a correlation between creativity and boredom. The more bored our brains are, the more our brains are going to find something interesting to occupy itself with.
Yeah.
So, I think there's value in being bored. And I've always hated it, which I think is why I've done so many damn things, you know, because if I
Right
have time to
on.
fill it. But I've filled it with creativity. I haven't filled it. I filled it with trying things, going places, traveling. I try not to fill my empty spaces with mindlessly doom scrolling. That makes for a very sad and sick society.
You said I'm not going to let him take it from me in regards to reading books. And I
Mhm.
feel like we give ourselves away to these cheap things to our phone. You likely would not have been in the circus had you had your phone because you'd have been on YouTube. You wouldn't have been bored enough to think, I'm going to go do the circus, which led to so many other things, the band and all that.
Right.
And it's like, we're giving our lives away. I just gave a talk to a group of young kids.
Mhm.
Well, young kids to me, but they're like early 20s, starting their careers. And the topic was your time is currency. Who are you paying? And it changes from a victim mindset to they're taking this from me to an agency mindset, which is I have control over my time. I choose whether I pick up my phone. Granted, it's like telling the crack addict not to do the crack. It's like, well, once you've tasted it, how do you
Well, and
not open
also
the phone?
when the whole world is designed to deliver crack in little pellets, I mean, that's the other thing. We can't be too hard on ourselves because the tech companies are incredibly good at what they do, and what they do is they steal your attention. So we can't be too hard on ourselves. We just have to be deliberate, and we have to understand what's happening around us. And here's I have to show this to you. This is the back of Geezer issue number 2.
Yes. Yes. Get off your phone.
I found this in New Orleans. I was walking along the street. I recently went to New Orleans for a friend's art opening. I was there with two other female friends. One of them is 34, the other one is 44, and I'm 54. And the joy of having relationships, like really good friendships with people of all ages, including people older than me, I think is really it's so rich for our lives. But I want to show you that here's the front of issue number 2.
In ancient times, they had to stand to play video games. Oh my gosh.
I thought you'd like
Ancient times. Ancient times.
I love the archaeological dig. This came to me by an artist, watercolor artist named Jay Samet, who we also profile in issue number 2. And it just it made me snort out loud. I didn't just laugh out loud, I snorted. And so that's the kind of humor that I love. And that's what we have in the magazine. But yeah, in the magazine, again, it's about fighting. It's kind of our little rage against the digital machine that we are all these teeny tiny little cogs in. So how can we extricate ourselves from being an unwilling, or at least an unwitting cog in the larger machine of the tech society that we're in.
You can always tell a reader and a writer by their beautiful vocabulary. And you are just whipping out vocab word after vocab word. I love it, Laura. You're so good.
Oh man. Well, it helps. My mom had a master's degree in English, so I was raised around oh my God, grammar. Whew, doggy. Yeah, so grammar, words, language. It's what makes us human. I really think
I
so.
love
Yeah.
words because it helps you describe things in just the right visual way, where when someone's speaking, the person listening sees it in their mind, and vocabulary can unlock that.
Hmm. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Word nerd forever.
You've got kind of this hot take. I've never heard this before, so I'm very curious to hear you explain it to me and the audience here. Letting go of ego and leaning out when necessary. You hear a million times. You heard it once, you heard it 1,000 times. Lean in, lean in. What the hell do you mean lean out?
Okay, so this is very much in the context of surviving and keeping your soul and your brain intact within a corporate environment. Yeah, the book the book Lean In came out what about 12, 13 years ago. Um, and I remember thinking, huh, am I supposed to lean in here? And at the time, my son was young. I was married. You know, I had so much going on, so many responsibilities. I was taking care of everyone and everything. And then I'm being told on top of this, you know, that I needed to lean in at work. And I think this is a very Gen X response. And I'm like, "Mm, you know what? I'm going to lean out because, um, especially like as a woman, I was what early 40s at that time, and um, I just thought it was preposterous to somehow say that maybe I wasn't ascending the corporate ladder quickly enough because I wasn't leaning in enough, which is bullshit because the corporate structures are not there to often support a woman who also has a family and also wants to have a life outside of the corporate environment. So I kind of called shenanigans on that. And I realized that the idea of leaning out to me came to mean that, and this is where the ego comes in, the healthiest mental and emotional state for me was to separate myself, my creative self, my self-worth from my job output. They could not be the same thing. If they became the same thing, then I would constantly be subjected to the whims of an ever-changing circus that is the nature of the corporate beast. Who am I reporting to? Is there a reorganization? Do we have a new CEO? Like these are things that if you tie yourself to your performance as a good worker, you will always be at the mercy of. So I made a conscious decision to lean out, which did not say I leaned out as far as doing good work. I will always do good work because that's just a core tenet of who I am. I'm never going to turn in shitty work. You know, I'm that A student, B's in math, A's in everything else. And I'll never not be that person, right? Because I do pride myself on working, if I'm doing the thing that I'm asked to do it well, because that's what I'm being paid for. But where I leaned out is where my ego was concerned. It was where my association of my worth as a human um, was, I had to make sure that that was not connected to whatever was happening in in my job. And you can completely, and that really transformed the way I felt. I think that's why I have been able to survive in a corporate environment for as long as I have. Because if I connected if I took every slight, if I took every politically driven, you know, uh, bit of ass hattery that you're going to encounter in a corporate world, if I took that personally and I took it with my ego and I took it as a refutation of me leaning in, then I would have gone crazy by now. So that's my advice, lean out. Do the best work you can, but you are not like don't be emotionally tethered to the job that you just happen to have this position, the title, whatever. lean out.
Work, do it well. Can you talk about how you can work hard, deliver a good product, whatever it may be, whatever your job is, but also not have your ego connected to the work and the job? I'm struggling connecting the two because for me, and I don't know if it's different because I'm a man, and you can correct me there or not, but so much of what I do is oriented towards my work. I pour so much of myself into it where it's hard not to attach your self-worth to whatever you're turning in. And I'm also a big believer in whatever I'm doing, I want to do it well,
Yeah.
or as well to the best of my ability, no matter what. So I think I'm asking two questions there, but give me your response.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that you bring up that you are a man, and in a patriarchal society, we attach men's self-worth to their ability to earn, to their ability to be that kind of the support system for a family. And which is interesting because that was not the nature of my relationship. I was always the one who was the earner in the family, which I don't know how that happened, being someone a writer with a theater degree, but it did. But I I can see why it would be hard to understand this, because it takes a while to wrap your brain around the idea that you are not your work. You're not. Whoever you are, someday you won't have work anymore. Think about that. Someday there will be a time when maybe you quit your job, maybe you are fired, maybe the company goes away. Um, Even if you're working for yourself, someday you're going to stop working, and then you are just going to be who you are. I think it's not healthy to conflate, um, you know, the kid that you were at 10 years old, to conflate that person with a job description. So it takes some time. And it took me a long time too, because I'm a pretty high functioning overachiever. And but what happened is, like, I had enough blows to my ego, um, over, again, the shifting sands of being in a corporate environment, that that was part of me learning how to lean out, and just to, again, to separate the core of who I was, who I am in my soul, from, you know, turning in a great project. And I feel like I've done some of my best work after that, because I had divested emotionally from some of the stuff that might be distracting. You know, maybe someone didn't, maybe I got some feedback on something that I thought was bullshit, and it probably was, but I know I have to, I'm like, okay, this is your feedback. This is your company. I'm going to do what you want. And you know what? That's part of leaning out, and still doing the best that you possibly can, but also not making it a personal, like making it about your own personal worth. Does that help at all, Andy? Take some time to think about it and get back to me.
Who are you, Laura?
Mm. I'm just a little ray of sunshine. That's all I am, Andy. I'm just a little ray of sunshine who wants to go through the world and spread love and joy and write and ride my, honestly, I've said this before, who I really am deep in my heart, I'm kind of a 12-year-old boy. I just want to, like, run around and ride my bike and play with my dogs and write cool stories and do cool stuff.
I
But
love that.
I live in this world, and I have to pay the bills, and I have to do all those things, but I'm not going to, I'm actually in my 50s. I'm starting to feel more like myself than I have in many years. And it's a lot about part of that leaning out thing, part of that learning to let go of your ego, and about just reconnecting with who I was when I was younger. And now I have, I've got a lot fewer fucks to give about it, right? Sorry, I hope you can swear on this on your podcast. I apologize. I'd swear like a sailor if you let me. But I just it's not that I don't care about things. It's just I care less about how other people perceive me, whether they're going to like what I do or not. Yeah, like it or don't. The people that resonate on my frequency will find me. And that's a really powerful revelation.
I can hear some 30-year-old saying, yeah, easy for Laura. She's 50. She's got enough money. She's got enough security. I can't afford to resonate at my own frequency.
I get it. And I was there. That's where a lot of the masking kind of comes through when you're creative and you're working in the world and you're just trying to pay the bills. So I would 100% own that. Like, I'm really, really, really lucky. The time that I've put into my career has paid off in a fairly comfortable position. I'm still working. I still want to keep on working. I still want to have, I still want to have health insurance and all of those things. I still have a son who's going to go to college at some point, I guess. But I would say that, when you're in your 30s, you're really in the thick of it. Into your 40s, it gets even harder, I felt. But I would say to listen, like, try to remember that you are not, you are not the sum of your job description, and you are not the sum of your latest, annual review. You're so much more than that. And find time, find a little time for yourself. Find the time to connect with your creative self and do something that brings you a little bit of joy whenever you can. Like I said, Bulgarian folk dancing, mosaic making, basket weaving, whatever the hell it is. Like, feed that side of yourself, because it'll pay off.
I thought I heard you say you are not the son of your job description, which to me was actually very powerful, because I wonder if, because I kind of relate to it a little bit, you feel almost like a child of your job and you want
Mm.
to make your job description, your boss, whoever this stranger is, proud.
Right.
And so you put so much emotional weight there. And then when you inevitably get let down, the job description doesn't have love for you like your parents do. And so I want to unpack that. There's a lot you're saying that I want to unpack, but you aren't the child of your job.
Mm.
And you said earlier something to the effect of your 10-year-old self is not your 40-year-old working self, or like the part of you that you were when you were 10 gets
Yeah.
stripped away when you're older. And if you want to find out who you are, go back to who you were when you were 10, when you didn't have all of this other stuff clouding your mind. And
Mhm.
of course, we all evolve and we grow, and that's part of being
Sure.
human, of course.
Sure.
But there
Yeah.
might be a seed there that you can tap into that helps bring you back to who am I?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're all kind of born who we are. I think that we're a lot more nature. Nurture definitely has an impact, but we need to um, we need to honor the nature of us, who we are as individuals. And I feel like there's something valuable in going back to your 10-year-old self who was still pretty ignorant to the pressures of the world, and to other people's expectations. And so, start to think about, we know what everyone else expects from us. What do we expect from ourselves? In a way
Ooh.
that's, that feels like it nourishes us. Go to geezermagazine.com. That's where you can subscribe. The magazine, like I said, it's huge. This is like the time where, like, it's huge. It weighs 2 pounds. It's 11 by 15. We have an amazing, we have so many amazing people who are contributors, and it just feels so good to hold in your hands. And man, this one still has the fresh magazine smell. Geezermagazine.com. We're small. We're just getting started. Any support we can get is great. We also have a Substack. So Substack, geezermagazine.substack.com. So you just go to Substack, search for Geezer Magazine, follow us for free there. You won't get all the content you'll get in the print magazine, but we're starting to create community and to share more content. People write us a lot. They send us things that we can't publish in the print magazine, but we want to use this as an outlet to start telling other Gen Xers stories and to create kind of a geezer movement going on there. Come support us. We need it.
Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend.